So, welcome to both of you. I, first of all, am so inspired by all of you doing incredible things. So let's start with you, Maria Rose. Talk to us a little bit about why you, some of the challenges, I guess, that you have faced throughout this journey.
Okay. Hi, y'all. Good morning. So I have an interesting story. I am from the rural Midwest. There are more cows than people in my hometown. A lot of the challenges that I faced were related to and not being believed that I could do it. I started this company when I was 14 years old. And so most of the time when I was 14 and 15 and 16, I got a lot of, okay, but you can't drive though. Like I had the actual business plan written out, I had all of the legal research done, but I still was encountering things like, but you can't drive. You can't sign your own legal documents, so really you can't do this. You should be getting someone else to do this for you. And it says, no, but I'm gonna do it though. And then we did.
I mean, talk about an incredible drive. So for those of you that are sitting here that have an idea, what prompted this idea?
So I was working in the food pantry in that small town, and we would throw food away all the time as the food pantry because we couldn't communicate with all of the agencies nearby and just say something as simple as, hey, we have 10,000 boxes of macaroni and cheese that expire in a week, do you want it? It was really hard for us to have that conversation. And I was the youngest person volunteering in this food pantry by 40 years. And so nobody really had thought about, well, what if we use the internet? What if we use one of these newer tools that we have? So this concept that I had at 14 has become this organization that works in 49 US states and territories and has moved 1.5 million pounds of food to communities in need absolutely free. And our current staff, by the way, our current staff is age 16 to 24. So we're like right in the age of you guys are just a little bit older.
That's unbelievable. I mean, and you're using, I mean, math algorithms. Talk to us about that.
Okay.
Let's get nerdy.
Yeah, let's get nerdy. Okay, is anybody in here a coder? Does anybody in here code?
Oh,
yes! Okay,
that's
good
for you.
Yeah, good for you. You're gonna be super employable. So, one of the things that was hard for me was asking for help. Because I was really good at reading, I was really good at science. But when I would take standardized tests, my lowest scores were always in math. And they weren't that low, but it was an obvious kind of dip in my abilities. And I would ask people for help because I didn't understand what was happening. And they would look at me and say things like, you're too smart. You don't need help. You're too smart to need help. And it took me so long, but I did learn how to do it, to be able to stand up and say, no, I don't know what I'm doing. I came to you for help. It's your job to help me. Mm-hmm. Can you help me? When you are a really smart, really passionate, really driven young woman, you get kind of cast in this role of Wonder Woman, and that you aren't allowed to be bad at things. You're a human. We're all terrible at something. For me, that something was vector calculus. You're allowed to ask for help, and learning to ask for help, especially with math and with algorithms, made me able to lead means and build it to what it's become.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, just asking questions, I'm sure that helped you along the road so much as you continue to kind of build this empire. Nadya, I want to talk to you. I mean, you know, we saw this in the video. Patsy had mentioned it before. You were homeless in high school. I mean, first of all, before we get to how that kind of transitioned and you moved on to, you know, an Ivy League college, what was that like?
Yeah, so I mean, my experience with housing stability was very unique in the sense of it was a very confusing time for me, right? Because I was legally homeless, like I had to write no permanent address on school forms. We were constantly thinking about like what kind of food we were able to afford or what sort of activities we could do. But I was going to an exclusive private school on scholarship where like my face is still on the front of the financial aid packet. And like it was really hard because on social media and in person, I was around these people who had multiple homes and planes, and I was making up lies on like why people couldn't come over to my house. I struggled with suicidal thoughts and depression and anxiety all through high school. But I found refuge in academics and then eventually doing my work with what's now Period. I know it's called Camions of Care there, but we actually rebranded. So Period, we are the largest youth-run NGO in women's health in the world and the fastest growing one here in the United States. We've addressed over 140,000 periods through product distribution, and we have about 110 campus chapters at universities and high schools around the US and abroad. But it's completely run. Like I started it when I was 16, actually a few weeks after my family got our apartment back, and after I had a very pivotal weekend where I think because I was housing unstable, I really assigned it to like my family's in this situation because I can't do anything to help them. And I felt very helpless and very confused about like what it meant to be privileged and like what I deserved. I grew up with a lot of domestic violence too, and so I think those feelings converged, and I kept finding myself in these situations with abusive relationships and sexual assault, and I was really like mentally struggling with how to get out of those situations. And it really was finding my voice in public service and realizing that collaborating with other young people and taking my experiences and using like the anger and like sadness I had, that energy, and kind of like this desperation to be like, I literally felt like I was on the brink. Like I needed something to say my voice mattered if I was gonna like keep going. So I started this organization, and in talking to other young people, looking up to other young women, and just seeing that we could do this, it just grew and grew and grew. This past summer, we hired on our first round of full-time staff. We opened up our headquarters in Portland. We just opened offices in Boston, and we're opening up New York, LA, and DC this year. So we're super excited about that. But I will say that, like, I think I take what I went through. It keeps me grounded, right? And it keeps me driven in what I'm trying to do. Like knowing what it's like to feel like you don't really have a voice. Once you feel that, you never want to go back. And so I think that. I know it just sounds bad to say, but I think in many ways I am kind of fear-driven of this way of like, I don't want to feel like that ever again, and I don't want anyone else to feel like that. I'm a sophomore at Harvard College right now, and I'm running for office. So I'm running for the local government position of Cambridge City Council. My election's in less than 5 weeks, which we're super nervous about. We're canvassing every single day, knocking on hundreds of doors a day. It's the most competitive. Most competitive year in like recent history, and so there's 26 candidates running for 9 spots, and because of social media and being able to reach a national audience, we've gotten like death threats regularly because I'm the start of some Asian invasion, and which I think is just funny. You get to a point of being like, okay, you obviously have too much time on your hands. But it's also a lot of young people who look at me and say like, why do you think you can do this? Like I wouldn't be able to do this. And so I think that like that essence of voice, and I'm running on a progressive platform trying to push for housing instability. Like my story and what I've been through, I think is very much, you know, I kind of have tried to accept it and move on. But to be completely real with you guys, those are experiences that stay with you, you know, like there are things where like on social media and in person I can be like, you know, I'm standing here as a confident young woman, but like I still have those moments where I'm in bed in the morning and I'm just like, am I doing anything that's worth it? Like, is anything I'm doing working? And I still have this struggle of like, am I in a healthy relationship? Like, do I even know what I'm doing? Like, how do I feel? Why am I crying? Like, those things stay with you, and I think that what's really important is that you stay real with it and you stay open with it. Just like Kate was saying right before this, like it's so important that you talk to people and you find people to relate to. Like we were just talking backstage before, we were like, we don't even know what we're doing. Like, why?
We have no idea.
Yeah, we were like, why do these girls want to hear from us? Like,
because you're rock stars and you're inspiring.
I do actually. I want to bounce off what you just said. So Nadya and I have a lot in common in our backgrounds. Thankfully, I did not have housing instability, but a lot of the other stuff, there's a lot of similarities. It doesn't always go away, and that's okay. That's okay. It's not, if you're somebody like me and you have depression, it's gonna be there and that's okay. You can learn to live with it, you can learn to adapt. It's gonna be there and that's okay. you're not broken, your brain's just a little bit different.
And you're not alone. That's the biggest thing.
There's
It's
so
like,
many of us.
I was going to say, I'm sorry not to cut you off, but I think all four of us have sat up here and said that we have all struggled with points of anxiety, depression, loneliness, and, we're well into, 20s, 30s, and we're still struggling with this.
I would also say that with like things like what you're going through, and especially sexual assault, like, and I'm just gonna call it out, like, that's something that I went through, and it really like put a huge damper on like my confidence and my feelings of self-worth. In high school, I really struggled with self-harm and like cutting myself because I was just really confused and had like an out-of-body experience. And for me, what helped was that the first time I ever said that I went through that was on stage in front of a crowd of a couple hundred strangers. And I said it out loud and I broke down on stage, but what happened afterwards keeps me going. What happened afterwards, after I have all of these conferences, is I get off stage and these people start coming up and saying, I went through the same thing and I never told anyone because I thought I was alone. And unfortunately, experiences like housing instability, sexual assault, depression, domestic violence, self-harm, those are things that the majority, almost the majority of girls in America go through and don't talk about. And they don't report it because they feel alone. And I think the biggest thing, and I think like that's something that we've connected with as well, but like those are things where people don't say anything because they feel alone, but they're so common. And the only way we're gonna change it, especially in this time of national uncertainty, is to talk about it. So that's my biggest thing with like anything you've been through, but also with periods. So.